to The Truth in This Art. Thank you for joining me for my conversations bridging arts, culture, and community. I am your host, Rob Lee. And before we start, I'd like to remind you to visit our website, thetruthinThisArt.com, for more episodes and to subscribe to our newsletter for the latest updates. Today, I have a special conversation with a special guest who serves as the founder and president of Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center. That is LTYC, an organization dedicated to empowering youth through arts and education. Please welcome Dr. Dermell Brunson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. Your work, Brother Lee, has been, making its name for itself. And so I'm just really excited to talk about the arts world with you, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And as I'm one to do before we get into the crux of it, I got to make the acknowledgement, since I add the video component to what I'm doing these days. Whenever I see someone, it's two things, right? Whenever I see someone who's an Aquarius and I find that out in the conversation, or if I see someone wearing glasses. So thank you for wearing your glasses, brother. I always got to acknowledge it before our brothers.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wear them when it's time to have screen time and time to have reading. Like it just helps me keep my focus. So yeah.
You'll love this. So I do this thing where I have 3 pairs of glasses currently. These are my pretentious art guy glasses. Notice the circular picture of them. So I do that. And again, thank you for coming on. And as we get started, I like to, start off with sort of kind of a softball, but I think it's a setting the stage question before we dive deeper into like the deeper topics. I'm going to give you a space to introduce yourself. And I do that. It feels, backwards, but I do that because I'm working off of a online thing. I'm working off of a bio, sort of cut and paste. And I find that artist statements, bios, all of those things always kind of fall short of capturing who the essence of the person is. So I want to give you the space to introduce yourself.
I mean, listen, I'm Derek and Tammy's boy, Dermell. They're Mel. They're Mel. I'm a kid from West Baltimore, man, and just been thankful and blessed to be able to spend the majority of the years on the earth that I have been blessed with to do stuff that I care about and do stuff that I love. And it wouldn't be anything without my parents and the family, the larger network that, as they say about the village, I'm definitely one of those village kids, my parents, as great as they are, now and were raising me, they don't even have the clue of the things that impacted me from other people that they put me around, or that was community or church or family or friends or whomever. And so I'm just blessed to be a part of that type of lineage and vibe. I have good people that I come from. And so that's who I am, man. It's really those people. It's West Baltimore. It's the heartbeat of the city. It's, family and friends, and being surrounded by, a bunch of different people who were, inspirational to me, and they were artists. Yeah. Whether they was in churches, my mom sang in the choir, so me being around the choir, a lot of my young life, my friends, I was just always drawn to that. And so those people, that's who I am. It's just, I'm an accumulation of the deposits that people have made into my life. That's what I consider myself to be connected to,
Yeah. Thank you. I have a secondary question that relates to that. You're kind of touching in that area. So it's great as far as sort of youth. And I got a comment. So I'm East Baltimore heavy, right? But I'm originally from West Baltimore, even though people think I'm not even from Baltimore, right? But like Argyle Avenue, that over there.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Argyle, yeah. And, I know Argyle.
I remember, this is kind of funny. It sets the stage a little bit for maybe the type of person I am as an adult. I remember we had a housing situation, right? My parents, and we had some dispute with the landlord, and I remember being maybe 3, maybe 4. When kids say things they're not supposed to say, like, What are you doing? So we're in
Right.
court for the hearing and all of that. And I was like, man, he's a liar. I'm saying that about the landlord. That's one of my early, it was like, yo, I'm gonna be out. So it's one of I got so much trouble, but it's kind of think about that now you mentioned
In court. Wow. Right. Hilarious.
100%. And that's probably one of the earliest memories that I have that I can in some ways connect. You know, we mean calling things out, being there, almost performing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
There's a performance aspect with it. And 'cause I was singing a song about him being a, like liar, liar, pants on fire, I believe is what I did.
yeah.
And so for you, you know, having your background, and we're definitely going to dive into that early in a bit later. But what is one of your earliest memories growing up in Baltimore?
Oh man, that could be a bunch of different things. I mean, I guess the earliest memory growing up, still going to have to be something family related, you
Yeah.
know. It's just so tough to think pinpoint what the earliest would be. But you think about like, for me, I remember as a kid, you know, it was only a couple of things that mattered to me. It was music, you know, and basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So uh and um that's the kind of I just remember being a kid that wanted to go out and play basketball, work on my handle or you know, go play 50. That was our game and what we go play 50 or 21. You know, those were the games you played with. It was just one or two, couple of guys, you know, and we so that's my best memories and earliest memories, I would say, growing up in Edmondson Village, is just being outside with my friends in elementary and middle school, and really experiencing the the vibes, the sense, you know, the smells, the energy, the fear, the everything of the city.
Yeah.
Just experiencing that as a Baltimore kid, because Charm City is one of those melting pot, but as a city of neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You know, from one neighborhood to the next, you get a total different experience, even if you're in the same zip code.
Right.
It's like literally the neighborhood can change and you'll know it by, you know, how the lawns are kept, or if it's trash out, or who's on the corner, or if it's a corner store, or if it's a blue light with a corner
Yeah.
store, if it's a, you know, if there's many cars outside, what type of cars, and just through walking, looking for in Edmondson Village, looking for places for us to play ball, whether it would be a school or playground or something like that, or people's backyards, friends we knew. That's my early memories of getting to know, you know, the vibe of the city as a youngster.
No, thank you for that. I mean, it sets the stage. Like you're out there. It's something about growing up. You're outside and you're just hanging with your friends and you're seeing these different things. And you're right, the neighborhood component. I live over east. You know, I sounded real Baltimore right there for the first time ever.
Yeah.
I live over east, and
Over west, over east. Yeah, over west, over east.
and I'll go. You know, I'll take like a stroll or what have you. You know, what feels like it's just like the 20-minute walk or what have you, and you'll see sort of the distinction, the changes, sort of the flow of what's there and what's not there, or even the types of houses too. Like I know when I go over west, those houses are huge, and
Right,
it's just townhouses heavy over here. So
right,
it's sort of
right.
that difference as well. And I imagine that leads to a sort of different setup when you have space, those big houses, you have like a lawn, you have backyard, you're able to do these different things, a little bit more space where when, at least I know for my house, got like the sort of row house set up. They got a little space in the backyard, but not really. I can't put up a hoop.
Right, right, right. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you gotta have a hoop. You gotta have a hoop out there, or somebody's gotta have a hoop. I didn't have one in my yard, but my homeboys did, and so we played, you know, in their yard,
Yeah.
right? Or especially that was when we were younger, and we would go to the court if the court was already taken up by bigger, older dudes,
Yeah.
right? And you didn't have a spot to get in. If you say you got next or somebody in front of you or you couldn't get in, then we started breaking out and doing our own thing till we were old enough to be able to get in those games, you know. So
Yeah.
you always look for you made friends with the dude who had the court, the
Yeah.
goal in his yard. That became your bud. Once you realize gold in the back of his yard, you're like, oh yeah, this is our new homeboy.
Oh yeah. So we're talking a little bit about youth, and in a way to segue to the larger chunk of the conversation, let's talk about leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center. Like, what is it? What was the inspiration in founding it, and some of those key milestones? Like, give us set the stage for us.
Yeah, I mean, what I noticed as an 18-year-old, because I really, myself and uh, my close friend at the time growing up, Ronald Fitzgerald, he and I co-founded. I founded and named it and created it. I brought him on, and it was his, I guess, his confidence in me that the idea I had was great and that he wanted to be a part of it because he was a no nonsense type of dude. He just didn't do anything that he didn't want to do. And so him wanting to do it really gave me the confidence. And it started from I was youth pastoring at a church in Owings Mills
Mm.
under my mentor, Dr. David, and he allowed me to get some of my ideas out. And I said, hey, what can we do a summer program, you know, and include the arts and have all these things. He's like, yeah, that's a great idea, son. You should, let's do it. Let's figure it out. So I went in grind mode, and Ronald was the first person I brought on to my little team at the time. I'm 19 years old. I'm 18, 19 years old. A team, what I thought was a team. I put the folks together, and we did a successful summer program that brought in about 70 young people within a 2-month period leading up to the summer. And from there, I felt the call, the vision of summer program. Initially, we were thinking summer and then maybe roll into after school. We started doing workshops, pro bono with
Yeah.
city schools and rec centers. And I named it and decided that we would go to a different route for school-based. At the time, my full-time jobs were working in DJS and working with DSS through foster care agencies
Sure.
and group homes. And so when I would do my visits with the young people at their schools, I just noticed that they didn't have any arts.
Mm.
And it hurt me, and it made me frustrated. And I'm the kind of person where it's like if I'm inspired, impacted by something that's frustrating me, but that means we need to do something. Like we don't just hold the frustration. It's like, what are we supposed to do next? Let's go. So I didn't want to be one of those cats who just, pointed and stared and didn't have any action. I thought, well, what if we start identifying a way to take arts into schools and communities where there aren't any arts? I remember being a kid at Baltimore School for the Arts as a Twigs
Yeah.
young person in middle school, and then as a theater major in high school, and knowing so many people, Rob,
Yeah.
so many people in my school, my former school where I grew up, middle school, elementary, kids from my church, kids from my family neighborhood, who I thought were talented, and in a lot of cases more talented than me, that didn't get into BSA. They had tried to get in and didn't get in. And it really just showed me that there wasn't enough opportunities to kind of hone in and introduce young people to the arts. So that's what it ended up being, man. It really started from that place of identifying a need and wanting to fill a void
Yeah.
that I thought was existing mainly in Baltimore schools.
Yeah, thank you. Sort of those changes, that identification of there's a lack, there's something that's missing. And it's one of those things where when I have conversations with people about sort of what their experience is, and I think there are a few things, but when you hear something that has that mission, that call, as you mentioned, the sort of vocation component around it, vocation is not just a job, it's a calling. There's something more deeper about that. And
Yes.
it's the challenges and all of these things that present themselves. I do this. There's a calling component to it. I
Yes.
could just get on, and talk about movies and enjoy that and have a good time with it. And, I've done that, right? I've, been in the podcast space for, it'll be 16 years in February. And,
Yeah.
But the last 5 have been in this lane because I felt that call. I had a response. And this notion of I'm from here. I think there are a lot of talented people here. I think there's a lot of people who, because they're from here, get this erroneous and incorrect sort of, vibe. It's an underdog thing, but also it's sort of this weird, it's all of the things. It's right. It's all of these different things that are attached
Right.
to it. And the message is our stories don't matter. So our creativity doesn't matter. Our getting access to things doesn't matter. So wanted to use my little influence and background or what have you to try to change that. And that's what it sounds like is part of the ethos and the DNA for what you do.
Yes. Can we impact? Can we change? We're blessed to be a blessing, all of those things. It's like, what can we do to deposit, create lanes of opportunity? And all you can do is plant a seed.
Yeah.
I guarantee that what it is that we're doing over this stretch of time that God has afforded us an opportunity to do it is somebody's going to be impacted.
Yeah.
And we will spark the brain of the young person that'll change the world in some form or fashion, whether it's the arts world, maybe we spark a brain creatively that, helps a young person find that real cure for cancer, or sparks that creativity to find that new, anecdote, or that new, herb,
Yeah.
in the that's already in the earth that we're missing that can help a bunch of different diseases, or is that person that's creatively able to, expand beyond trying to touch the moon and Mars and go into some other places in the galaxy and see
Yeah.
what's out there. So that's what the arts are, just the creative outlet, social, interpersonal skill building. And so that's what it is, brother. We want to plant that seed.
Yeah. And it's I mentioned one of the conversations I had not long ago, and at times we have sort of and you see it. Once you see it, you can unsee it, where it has to have the biggest impact. It has to be this specific type of impact. But sometimes getting in and creating the thought and having that thought spread, that's the impact that most people miss.
Yeah.
Like, again, in doing this, I try to keep the concentration and the focus, as much as interest is, but also it's baked in of talking to folks who are underrepresented, talking to people who are in my city, and hopefully it's spreading and having other folks realize, like, damn, that's a lot of talent there. That person
Yeah.
makes that person's from there. I didn't know anything about
Yes.
that place. That's the point.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
That's it.
So I read, and I think this was in your bio. I read this quote: "Leadership is not a title; it is a way of life." Can you expand on what that means to you, both personally and with your work at, I like to say the acronym LTYC. Can you speak on that?
Yes. Yeah, man. It's just not a title. You have to be engrossed in it from a molecular structure type of point of view.
Yeah,
And that's what I was inspired by years ago. It hit me like a ton of bricks, as they would say. It was real impactful to my psyche that, oh, okay, this is tough being a leader in a role that has some type of expectation.
sure.
But in life, you are a leader, right? You can be a leader in your family, you can be a leader in your friend circle, you can be a leader in the community. You could be the one walking by the trash and decides to pick it up and
Yeah,
change instead of leaving it there. Like, it's so many little things that we all get led by each other as humans. And so, but I saw I guess the baby boom generation, and before that generation, I'm not sure what they're called. I forgot the name of the generation before the baby boom. You may know, but they always seem to me to be real hung up on what their title was.
yeah,
The title meant something more in some cases than the actual walk and
gotcha.
the work.
Yeah,
So, and we're suffering for it right now in the work. We're suffering for this false ideology about, status and clout and, you know, recognition and name recognition and title and all these things. And nobody want to bear the stripes on their back. Nobody want to carry the burden. And so that's what, I've always, just thought about it that way. It's like, so we started teaching that in our leadership trainings with LTYC some years back. And I was actually, slow dripping a teach of that in when I was youth pastoring for ministries here in the greater Baltimore area.
Yeah.
I would teach that to the kids, like, leadership's not a title, it's a way of life. You got to choose a whole way that you're living and choosing to be, in a parallel process that comes with that. Because then people get to see you and they want to critique you, and because you're the leader and you're the one. But leadership is not always about being outspoken. It's not about who's the most articulate. It's not about, the prerequisite for leadership is not about, for servant leadership, it's not about, your family name, or how much money you have, or how many degrees you have, letters before, after your name. The real prerequisite is humility.
Right.
It's just like, I know where I've come from. I mean, I didn't create myself. Somebody made the way for me.
Yeah.
And I know where I'm going, which is to continue to trailblaze that legacy and move it forward. And so if I think that way, regardless of temperament, regardless of characteristics, regardless of personality, all of us can still have and carry a humility of, I'm about serving other people. What can I be doing in any capacity to help others and not myself?
Yeah. And I hear that, and I relate to that. And, I think there is a mix, and I always play this sort of game as to the different, like, generations, what have you. We have sort of like, maybe our parents, like my parents are both boomers or what have you. And so that's an idea that's there. And we didn't have like money and things of that nature. So it's like, and it was definitely be self-reliant. And I'm that. We were definitely with that focus. But I would imagine a lot of folks were not, and I think when we look at like social media and how things are rewarded, those mentalities, they're coming from those are the people that have the money and the leadership and all of that are running these things,
Right.
the quote unquote value. So
Right.
in some respects, in some regards, there are folks who believe that that's the way you go about it. The
Right.
bang, to get your name out there, the cloud, all of these different things.
Right.
And it's a thing I've been playing with one of my friends about. Yeah, there's work here that we have to do. That.
Right.
And you can't just skip over the work component. That has to be, it doesn't have to be hard, but it has to be something that you've gained and you've learned, some reps, some adversity. And I think that's a part of it that gets lost in the conversation a lot of times. And when I'm doing any of the education stuff that I'm doing, I always come from a position of helping. Even I do this, it's from a position of helping, and I get thrown off at times. And I want to get your take in this area, especially with background in mental health and in the arts, and sort of your work at LTYC. This dynamic of, okay, we're connecting. Like I do this, I look at this as a way to meet people, connect with folks, make some friends, and so on. And if me and you are friends, whatever I have in terms of exposure, connection, that's what I'm here to try to help with. It's like my position is, how can I help? What is your take in sort of those interactions, especially when it comes to like the consideration around mental health, the sort of arts community? Because it's, we have our different disciplines that get smaller.
Yeah.
The arts community and the education and arts community isn't the biggest space. And as you were touching on sort of the ethos, it's a thing that's wasn't always sort of treated right here.
Exactly. I think that
yeah, I know that was a lot, by the way.
no, it was great. It was great. I'm letting it wash over me. I think that it's just the mental health component is important for every person, and that's what I'm glad we're starting to over the last, really few decades, but it's definitely picking up speed as we go along, and recognizing that, sometimes it feels like people think that the mental state in the brain is outside of the body. And we forget that it's in our body, right? Yes, the thoughts can be overbearing, and the senses that God gave us, all the, touch, taste, smell, scent, all that thing, all those things can be, but it's really in your body. And so the fact that we would spend a lot of time about six pack or, you know, this and all these other things, right? And all of these other aesthetically pleasing things and for cosmetic surgeries and all these things that folks are doing, that's their right and prerogative to do.
Yeah.
For years, it was all the hyper emphasis, even with physical, getting to a gym. Gyms became popular, and making sure you get your walk in and make sure you get your bike riding. All of these things have their place, and they are important, but nobody talked about mental health. And so in the arts community, typically the artist is emoting through their work, right? Whether it's their songwriter, their musician, their a visual artist, their graphic, whatever their mode and modality or medium of art expression, they're normally emoting that way and getting their thoughts and ideas. But it's really important that we hyper focus it with artistic expression, especially for young people.
Yeah.
Right. Because we can do so much good with paying attention to the creativity in young people and using it as a conduit for them expressing themselves and finding out things about what's happening in the mind of the young person, so that they need another level of mental health support, they can get that quality mental health support. And I'm an advocate for, and it's not just because, we're running an arts organization, but because I worked in the mental health field for a minute, specifically through foster care. And then we had a practice that I started, and we were doing some cool work at, providing therapy. I just noticed that play therapy and expressive therapy and these other forms of therapy that weren't traditional talk therapy were better for young people. Yeah. I could see it in real time. I don't have any metrics. I don't have any, I don't know what the numbers. I'm sure it's out there. Somebody's collecting the data. I did. I'm just the eye test.
Yeah.
These kids are more excited to come express and receive, not just receive and not just express and receive when there is a joint collaboration. Yeah. That's not just some therapist. And normally when I'm working with the community, the Black community, not some non-Black person, right, talking at me or to me about what my issues and my thoughts and feelings are. Yeah. It's a disconnect. But when there was play therapy for the younger kids and expressive therapy for the older young people and preteens and teens, progress by the leaps and bounds, right? They get it, the idea clicks. And so I'm a heavy, supporter and cheerleader for us making sure as a community across the board, urban, rural, suburban, that we wrap our arms around each other and adults as well. Of course, we know Frederick Douglass is easy to build strong children and to repair broken men. We know that one. And that thing is so painful to realize when you look at ourselves as we're getting older, but also look at people that came before us. Yeah. And be like, wow, these folks are not going to change, right? These folks are going to be who they are at this point, because trying to repair the brokenness at the later stages in life is just, it's not impossible, but it's virtually almost merely impossible. And we want to make sure that we build strong children, and a well-rounded child needs play, they need art, they need hugs and kisses, positive reinforcement, but also they need mental health support. They need that other thing that balances it all out.
Yeah, I do, and thank you for that, because that aligns and makes sense. I'm a data analyst in my day job, in the real life, right? Not in the podcast life. I'm just a character on a podcast, but I play with this idea, and it affects how I think. This notion of sort of the root cause, right? Root cause analysis, and I find that we have folks who, it feels like we just, and you kind of echoing it a little bit, we just got cool with even discussing mental health, discussing those sort of, and, with things that are kind of new, we don't know how to discuss it a lot of times or even engage in it. We identify something, but we're almost trying to see, is this it? Is this it? And
Right.
there are some folks who in that, sort of figuring it out and knowing that we need to talk about this, knowing that there are things that are affecting one's happiness, affecting one's mood, one's sensibility, one's overall mental well-being.
Hmm.
They will say, oh, people are so soft these days and they're so weak. And it's so odd to me. And
Yeah.
going with and it struck me when you mentioned the Frederick Douglass quote. I I was thinking like you can't rebuild them if they're like buildings, right? You can't rebuild a broken man. You might be able to put a little, caulking in there. You might be able to
Yeah.
kind of,
I like
you
that.
can't fix the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You can renovate. You can do some. Yeah. You can do. And it's not, again, I believe that all things are possible to him who believes.
Yeah.
But so I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's it's
It's a full
it's damn
career.
near impossible. Yeah, it's like, it's almost, and and so that's why we do what we do. That's why you're spreading the joy and the love and conversations around the arts.
And lastly, even in this thing where I know the importance, and I want to get your sort of your take on it, the importance of an education in the arts, sort of the not just knowing the creative stuff, but knowing the life skills, knowing all of that stuff that's attached with being a person that's in the arts. Um, so I want to get that from you, but I'll just say this, you know,
Yes,
and being there and having time removed, like,
yes.
some of my students, reminded me, they was like, oh, you're as old as my dad. I was like, thanks, appreciate that. And especially not having any kids, I was like, all right, then. But
Right.
being able to observe and see the students through senior year for a whole year and see sort of the changes, the moods, and the sort of different considerations that are now in that high school experience and at
Yeah,
an arts high school, it was something to behold. And also for me to check what, as a first time educator, check what
yeah.
I thought I knew about my thing. Like when you're in the pocket and your stuff, you're just like, man, all right, here's the lesson, do it. And it's just like,
Right.
no, maybe not that. Maybe it is having expectations and holding young folks,
Hmm.
accountable for doing their stuff. You guys know what you need to do, but also knowing when to kind of pace things differently, knowing that they're all the doldrums. It is late in the day. It is these sort of different things that are there, and sort of what the temperature is mentally in the class. Like people are stressed. We got midterms, we got finals, we got all these different things. So being
Right.
able to have the space for that and checking that as sort of a first time and, I guess, non-real educated. I always joke about, I was like, I'm barely a teacher, but that sort of component. So in that, I think I helped, just give folks some of those like life's lessons because I'm coming in as an outsider, not necessarily an
Yeah.
educator.
Yeah.
So could you speak on the importance of, sort of the life stuff as someone who is an artist and who has the artistic background and who works with, young people, sort of the importance of those life lessons, those essential life lessons, those leadership qualities, especially in working with folks who are artistic?
Yeah. I think that's where I believe, for me, my inspiration and God's blessing for me was merging that leadership with the arts, where we get the leaders of tomorrow, thought process connected to the arts, and that we can teach leadership development and skill development through the arts,
Yeah.
because the arts teaches you about community. It's a reflection of oneself, but it also is a reflection of the world around you. That's what's special about the arts, brother, is that the arts give you both things. It gives you the real work within yourself if you allow it to, but it also, if you allow it to, gives you the outer, awareness and observation with what's happening around. So I think that part is real, and the life skills portion that really impacted me directly, but also impacted the way we are building leaders of tomorrow, is that at BSA we got the conservatory model, education, which was that we had educators, then there were, academic teachers, then we had some arts folks that had all of the
Yeah.
level of credentialing and certifications and that thing. But then the bulk of our instructors in all disciplines were really just teaching artists, arts practitioners, people that were actually working in the field of the thing that they're teaching about.
Yeah.
And so it automatically, Rob, just connected us to the life skills aspect because just like anything else in history is passed down initially, it's through storytelling.
Right.
It's through narrative. So to hear the stories of our favorite teachers talking about their work in the field,
Yeah.
or what it was like for them to be out auditioning, or what it was like still some of them at the same time that they were teaching us were still in plays. They would tell us, "Hey, I'm in the Shakespeare play at the Shakespeare Festival. If you're around, come check." So we got to see them in real time. They were in the TVs and movie things that came through town, The Wire and The Corner, and the host of other dozens of movies that have been filmed in Baltimore.
Yeah.
When they want to call it DC or some other place, then shoot it in Bolton Hill or shoot it in Mount Vernon, Baltimore, and call it, DC because of the brownstones,
Right.
right? And so our teachers, man, they were in that shit. They were in it.
Yeah.
So we knew about it in real time when we were 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. So that's automatic life skills and applying it to the arts because we were saying, oh, we're watching you walk to work every day, but you're still an active artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. It just changed. It really, impacted me, I would say. I'm not sure about what other people would say, but for me specifically, it is the catalyst for what we do. It's Donald Hicken, who was, my theater department head at the time, and my teacher for a class in ninth grade, and then a few courses in 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that, over a conversation in his office at BSA, that really inspired me to go a different route with building LTYC with the charter that BSA had to allow teaching artists to teach and be able to still give kids grades. And so he was the one, man, that inspired me to take it from thinking of just summer programming or after school and workshops is could we go into school systems in Maryland, DC, Virginia? Could we impact other cities similar to Baltimore
Yeah.
in the school day, in the school-based milieu? It was Donald Hicken that inspired me to think about the impact that the teaching artists had on us.
It's important to have it. It's important to be able to get that context from folks. I would say in teaching and in talking, I would, not in a bragging sense, but in a sort of real sense of this is what it looks like in the real life. And it's like I'm not just some dude here just talking about it. I do this and getting that across. And that's the thing. And I think done in a way that it's like, here's an avenue that you might not think is even something you could do, you should do. It may not feel cool. It may not look cool, what have you, or even trying to demystify it. And it's just like, hey, I'm on a billboard right now. It's one of the things I would say. I was like, yo, I'm out here. Like, and I'm
Mhm.
doing this and I'm connecting with folks. I'm connected with other faculty that's here and really trying to speak on what I'm doing and connect it to sort of maybe the lesson and maybe what that experience is to make it applicable versus just theory. And
Right.
and then putting it into practice and just giving examples that feel really real world. And I find that that sort of approach, because initially I was just like, yeah, I'm not cut out for this. This is going to be bad. But eventually I started getting through and I talk about it in a way that it's just like it was sustaining. It felt good. It was an extra thing being added to the plate, but sort of
Yeah.
the education component of it, I got a lot out of it. And
Yeah.
that the students got a lot out of it,
Yeah.
in that short period of time. And I think that approach that you're describing, I think it builds up and lays a strong foundation for folks to be well-rounded.
Yeah, man. We trying to all be. I'm still, we still pushing for well-roundedness, even, now that, the days are moving faster and we're getting older. It's still about well-rounded. It's about getting better. Can we get better? Can we do it better?
Yeah.
Can we serve better? Can we figure it out better? Can we give better? Can we love holistically and well-rounded, which includes tough love,
Yeah.
not just, pat on the back, but sometimes kicks in the butt, right? All of that's love. And so can we do it better? And so that's what we're about, Rob. And we love the opportunity to keep creating lanes for young people to be exposed and experienced and engaged in the arts and getting them to see themselves in a new way,
Yeah.
and to be strength based. It's always a pleasure for any person, older, young, younger, old, to be able to identify in them the thing that they're doing good and start from there. Again, even sometimes still having to do the tough love part,
Yeah.
right? As a teacher with the high schoolers and that, probably, it's like always going to be a knucklehead or two out of the bunch that needs a little tough talking to.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're redirecting people to who they're supposed to be based upon their strengths. It's like, yeah, we're being tough right now on you because the expectation of whom much is given, much is required. We want you to be this
Yeah.
in this lane, and you knuckleheading up. So you got to be tough. And so that's what it really is. That holistic, well-rounded, whole child possibly has the best opportunity to become the whole adult. Systems are changing in our country. Laws are changing. Regulations are changing. AI is increasing and dominant right now, and legislation coming down the pipe for that. And we saw what happened in Hollywood with strikes and that kind of thing, and it's going to happen. And with music and other industries, there are going to be some pushbacks and things that happen. And we should all be concerned about what world we're shaping and creating for those generations coming behind us, and if we're making it better. And
Yeah.
better doesn't always mean increased technology. Doesn't always mean that. It could mean going back to the bare bones of the basics, and just like you mentioned earlier so eloquently about the mental health
Yeah.
and physical, and that's not real chicken in the McDonald's chicken nuggets.
Right.
Just and think about growing up, we thought we was doing something. When my family stopped eating pork and beef, and they was like, we eat poultry and fish, and we eat more of that. And we go to McDonald's or Burger King, you thought you was doing something because you weren't getting the burger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to get this burger. We're getting chicken nuggets. This is better chicken. How devastated was I to become an adult and realize they wasn't even giving us real fucking chicken?
Well, that's one of the things where, and I got one last question I want to ask you. But before I get to that, it's definitely that. And as you were describing it, I was thinking sort of, they have this thing called like a restriction diet or elimination diet. It's just like we do these things that are easy, and then somehow these things that are easy just leads to us having these things that aren't necessarily good for us. Like AI applied in certain ways, and I deal with it every day. AI applied in certain ways can be helpful, but an overuse of it because it's quote unquote easy, dangerous, doesn't quite work. And I think it takes away from sort of one's creative identity.
Yes.
These value meals and these quick meals, maybe you should have chicken nuggets. You should have cheesecake. You should have pizza. You should make it.
Yeah.
And if you make it, you learn something.
There we go. And I love it because you're going to be doing culinary arts next month with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So this is great. All right, so that's exactly it, man. You're spot on. Can we make it? Can we teach about label reading and ingredients and the fact that you can make it at home and still have the impact of how it feels to taste and enjoy, because you must have pleasure in life. That's a part of the deal, is that pleasure is built into life, so that's it. But maybe you shouldn't be grabbing it from this drive-through, at least not as many times as we thought it was okay to do. Yeah. Like it wasn't every now and then. It was like multiple times. Every day after school, like you're with your homeboys, like how much you got? $2. How much you got? $1.50. How much? Like we're gonna put together and see if we can get a 20 piece. So that we can share while we're on the basketball court. And it's like, that's what we ate. And I read Gatorade and I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
We're talking big back origins here. So actually, and I think I got that last question I wanted answered. So that's good. I want to move into, if you don't mind, and move into the rapid fire portion of the pod because
Okay.
I got a couple questions for you, and you know how it goes. It's like, look, I said what I said. This is my answer. I'm not, I'm holding my hand up to this answer. All right. So I got three of them for you. Here's the first one. What tool do you use the most to stay productive? Like some people pull out like I'm always in my phone. That's what keeps me on points when my calendar is at. What do you
Yes.
use to stay productive?
That the phone has definitely become a big one, even though I'm an anti-phone guy. My phone stays on silent. I check it periodically during the day when I need to. I've even semi-trained my family and friends and team to know to leave a text or email best or voicemail because I respond that way.
Mm.
Uh, but I'm still old school, we have LT like I'm like I still write notes
Yeah.
at my desk. So we got the LTYC branded sticky notes. And so I like to jot. I'm a jotter.
Yeah.
That my jotting and again, jotting still has turned into thumbing and jotting it, right? But I'm a jotter and that keeps me productive. And the other thing that keeps me productive is I'm always going to have on some music. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to be a big part of my day in some form or fashion. Like it's definitely in the car, getting ready in the morning. If I'm going, have a big day coming up or things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes while I'm working, definitely independently, and annoys my staff, but sometimes in the office, like it's got, something on. If it's guests, I probably just classical or jazz. If it's our team or family, because it's going to be my regular R&B, hip hop, pop music, and so I need to have something on that's going to keep me productive is music.
Okay. Here's the next one. I was joking earlier about when I'm in certain scenes, I wear certain accessories. Like I wear this when I'm doing an arts conversation.
Yeah.
What is one article of clothing or accessories, clothing, what have you, that you have a lot of? I remember talking with one dude, he's a good dude, curator, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a lot of scarves." So it's like, as one does.
Right, right. Um, I'm a hat and sweatsuit guy.
Okay.
So, and my, yeah, that's probably the easiest quick rapid fire. Yeah. I'm had a sweatsuit. I got one on right now. As you can see, our artist life, which is part of our lifestyle merch and brand apparel that we're building into an apparel brand that helps us to raise money to offset costs for field trips and master classes and art supplies and resources for young scholarships
Yeah.
for the young people. And so I'm always going to be in that for the most part. But if it's not this hat, it's going to be a hat. My most comfy flow that keeps me, again, back to your first question, probably also helps me be productive is I'm trying to be in a sweatsuit, yo. Like younger, like going up, like we did. I love suits. Like if I got to do it, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it because I really want to. I'm the kind of cat that I'll show up in a suit when everyone else is in shorts and sweat. Like I have to be inspired to do the suit, but the regimen of the dress up, the button up. I've had jobs with the button up in the suit that was important.
Yeah.
Or working young in the church, youth path, being in the community, I had to. But once I broke out of that bondage,
Yeah.
because because again, it's the same thing. Like leadership's not a title; it's a way of life.
Mhm.
There's a thing that ensues that, and it's nothing wrong with you know uh, your equity in how you present yourself, right? And it's important to have that, but there was a hypersensitivity around what you have on,
Right.
right? And I thought that maybe we could change the tides of that. And some people that I knew inspired me out in LA, how they ran their company, it was very comfortable dress.
Yeah.
And so I decided, yeah, it's okay for us to be comfortably dressed if we're knocking out work and we're being smart and we're being working as a team. Let's be comfortable. So that's probably all of a sudden now, Rob, that's the thing that's now dominating my closet. Sweatsuits, man.
I love it.
Sweatsuits.
All right. So here's the last one. This one might be the degree of difficulty one, but it's the last one. Describe your work in one word.
love. I mean, it really is. It's love. Yeah, it's love. And we can, take that all different places. You asked me earlier about growing up, that love that was put into my heart by my family
Yeah.
and people that my family introduced me to and raised me around, the neighborhoods, the churches, the rec centers, the schools they chose to put me in, camps, and all types of stuff. That's the thing. It's love. That's what's driving it, is love.
It's a great answer. And that's kind of it for the hot seat and the rapid fire portion. Um, so there's two things I want to do as we close out here. One, I want to thank you for coming on and spending some time with me and talking about LTYC and your story. And two, I want to give you the space and opportunity to tell the folks where they can check you out, where visit the website, social media, all of that good stuff. The floor is yours.
Oh, LTYC.net is our website for our LTYC shop merch that I just mentioned. That's a separate site on LTYCshop.net. So the main organization website again is LTYC.net. LTYCshop.net is for Artist Life and other LTYC branded t-shirts, hats, hoodies, sweatsuits for sure, for folks to cop for the fall and winter. We actually have a summer sweatsuit as well for Artist Life. And we're branded across social media as LTYC Arts, LTYC ARTS, LTYC Arts. That's where folks can check me out. I'm not personally on social media, so I stay away from it. But the organization is, and we love to hear from you and love to work in new communities. There are folks that have schools, churches, rec centers, YMCAs, boys and girls clubs that are in need of arts enrichment right now for the summer 2024, but the fall, next school year 24-25, we are open for new relationships, communicating. We currently serve three, I would say, service areas: our Greater Baltimore, which is Baltimore City, Baltimore, Howard, and Harford County, Anne Arundel County; DC Metro, which is Washington, D.C., Montgomery County, the two corners of VA down there, Fairfax and Alexandra and in Arlington and that whole corridor, Prince George's County, Maryland, and Charles County, Maryland, are our D.C. Metro service area. And our newest service area as of 2019, 2020 is Hampton Roads, Virginia, which includes Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, the whole area. So we're out here spreading this love, brother. We're wanting to make sure that every young person has equitable access to the arts. And that, again, is urban, suburban, rural. That's private, public school, Montessori charter, Seventh-day Adventist, Archdiocese, early learning centers, child care, anywhere there's young people from the age of 3 on up to 19. We believe that they should have the option of arts enrichment, music, theater, dance, visual arts, creative writing, fashion and cosmetology, culinary arts, martial arts, graphic arts, all the performing and creative arts. We believe strongly that it will change lives.
Thank you. And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Dr. Dermell Brunson for coming on to the podcast and sharing a bit of his story and the story of leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center. And for Dr. Brunson, I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.